When travel stops, these are the destinations that hurt the most. Welcome to MojoTravels, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 countries most dependent on tourism. Are you a fan of our videos? Be sure to subscribe to MojoTravels and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at the nations whose economies are most closely tied with the local travel industry. There are a lot of ways to measure how dependent a country is on tourism, from the dollar amount the industry contributes to their economy, to the percentage of their population who are employed by the industry. In the end, however, we decided to go with the percent of a country's gross domestic product, GDP, that tourism represents, although this number is always in flux year to year, and thus rankings change frequently. Number 10. Turkey. From stunning ocean vistas, to the towering peaks of the Kachkar Mountains, and the surreal fairy chimneys of Cappadocia, it's a country that makes a big impression. While it's certainly blessed in terms of natural beauty, the nation's greatest treasure is its past. The land has played host to several major civilizations over the centuries, including Roman, Byzantine, and Ottoman, and their respective influences can still be felt today. While Istanbul might not be the nation's capital, it's very much Turkey's long-beating heart. It once served as a major point in the Silk Road trade routes that once connected East and West. Though the Silk Road is long gone, international travel continues to be a major factor in Turkey's economy, with tourism representing 12.1% of the country's GDP. Number 9. Italy. It's not exactly a secret that Italy is one of the most popular destinations with international travelers. It seems as if every year there's some new, hot, previously under-the-radar place that people absolutely must visit. But while trendy destinations come and go, Italy's appeal is timeless. Last tallied in 2018, the country receives over 63 million visitors annually. With more official UNESCO World Heritage Sites than any other nation on Earth, Italy is well suited to attract tourists. But add to that its world-renowned cuisine, relaxed pace, breathtaking landscapes, beautiful cities, beaches, wine, fashion, and art, and Italy becomes the sort of country that's difficult not to fall in love with. Unfortunately, when a country enjoys decades of consistent tourism, it's only natural that the economy become dependent on it. In Italy's case, the travel industry employs over 1 million people and contributes 13.2% of their GDP. Number 8. Malaysia. Hedging out Italy by just 0.1%, tourism in Malaysia represents 13.3% of the country's GDP. And considering they had a gross domestic product of $358.6 billion in 2018, that's a lot of money. Then again, Malaysia's successful tourism industry isn't hard to comprehend. Tea plantations, great food, hiking and trekking opportunities, colonial and modern architecture, pristine beaches, fascinating wildlife, welcoming people, and a rich culture all help to make it the second most visited country in Southeast Asia. The thing is, taking into account the low cost of living and population of Malaysia, that 13.3% represents way more jobs than in Italy. 3.5 million to be precise, which is reportedly almost 1/4 of all jobs in the country. So when travel stops, the effects are widely felt throughout Malaysia. Number 7. Spain. Spain is another country that has long received a steady stream of tourists year after year. In fact, in the country's most popular destinations, like Barcelona and the UNESCO World Heritage City of Granada, over-tourism has become a real problem. Be that as it may, while locals may want fewer tourists, Spain as a whole has become extremely reliant on international travel. As of 2018, the tourism industry accounted for 14.6% of the country's GDP. Before the pandemic, the city of Barcelona alone was receiving just shy of 30 million visitors a year. But given everything that the city and country as a whole has to offer, those numbers aren't surprising. Romantic, vibrant, boasting incredible regional cuisines and wines, and packed to the brim with historic monuments, Spain is unlikely to ever stop attracting droves of tourists. Number 6. Austria. This one might surprise people. Unlike Spain and Italy, it's not one of the first or most obvious countries that come to mind when you think of a European vacation. The thing is that while it might not get romanticized by overseas travelers to the same degree as the aforementioned destinations, it nonetheless ranks 7th in Europe in terms of international arrivals, in no small part thanks to its popularity with European travelers. From 2008 to 2018, Tourism went from accounting for 9% of Austria's GDP to 15.4%, a shift that really highlights just how important the travel industry has become for the country's economy. Some of the country's biggest draws include the stunning capital city of Vienna, its soaring alpine region, and the many picture-perfect villages. Number 5. Mexico. As one of the top resort destinations anywhere in the world, Mexico does huge business when it comes to travel. With over 41 million international tourist arrivals annually, it's the 7th most visited country on Earth. And there are many ways to enjoy a trip to Mexico. Countless sunseekers are content to sip tropical drinks while lounging on the beach at an all-inclusive. But Mexico City has also become a very trendy destination in recent years, and a must-visit for foodies. Then there's all the Mayan landmarks to be appreciated, like Chichen Itza and Tulum. It's a real choose-your-own-adventure sort of destination. And all that tourism adds up to 17.2% of the country's GDP. To put that in perspective, at the start of 2020, the tourism sector was responsible for employing 4.5 million people, and that number had been rising fast in recent years. Number 4. Portugal. This Western European country has always done reasonably well for itself in terms of tourism, but in the last few years, their travel industry has really exploded. People all over the globe are finally recognizing just how much Portugal has to offer. Yes, the wine has long been appreciated, but social media has drawn greater attention to the beauty of Porto and Lisbon, while hikers can't get enough of Portugal's landscape. The tourism industry has exploded, becoming one of the country's fastest-growing sectors. According to Reuters, as of 2018, Portugal had also become one of the nation's biggest employers. Between 2006 and 2018, the number of international arrivals went from 7 million to 12.8 million people. Tourism has been an incredibly important part of Portugal's recovery following the debt crisis that began in 2011, and today it represents 19.1% of the country's GDP. Number 3. Greece. This Mediterranean nation has weathered famously tough economic times. After surviving a government debt crisis spanning from 2010 until 2018, the last thing that Greece needed was a pandemic that brought global travel to a screeching halt. The tourism industry accounts for over 1/5 of the country's GDP at 20.6%. Given the nation's long and storied history, people travel from all over the world to marvel at the ruins and landmarks dating back to the times of ancient Greece. Such cultural attractions alone would be enough to justify a strong tourism industry, but it's the beach culture, especially that of the Greek islands, that really makes travel such a pillar of the Greek economy. In 2017, travel generated 35 billion euros for the country. Number 2. Thailand. This Southeast Asian country is one that should be on just about everyone's bucket list, if it isn't already. There are few places where you can get quite such a diverse and rich travel experience at such an affordable price. And based on the fact that Thailand recorded just shy of 40 million arrivals in 2019, chances are that we're not telling you anything you don't already know. As of 2018, the tourism industry represents 21.6% of the country's GDP. That's a very sizable slice of economic pie, and tourism shows no signs of slowing. The Thai National Economic and Social Development Council, making their predictions before the pandemic, were projecting that tourism is likely to account for 30% of the GDP by 2030. According to a 2017 paper published by the World Travel and Tourism Council, 2030 could also see the country hosting just shy of 80 million travelers. Number 1. Philippines. Not only are the Philippines on the top of our list today, but this country also represents the largest jump in terms of GDP from one country to the next. The tourism industry accounts for nearly a quarter of the GDP of the Philippines. At 24.7%, this figure makes all of the others on our list look modest by comparison. Like Thailand, the Philippines benefits from a low cost of living, meaning that your travel budget can stretch quite far. The landscape is also diverse, but consistently awe-inspiring. Mountains, rainforests, islands, picture-perfect beaches, dive spots, there's no shortage of natural spaces to explore. But it's also a nation with a proud local culture and plenty of monuments and heritage towns to be appreciated. Unfortunately, with millions of people living in the Philippines being employed in the tourism industry, when travel stops, the repercussions are major. Check out this other recent clip from MojoTravels, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.